Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a super fun booktube tag that I've never done before, and it's the mid-year freakout tag. I've seen a lot of my favorite creators do this one year after year, and I just have never given myself the time to get all of the data and statistics together, and today we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna try my best to be as organized as possible, but if it gets a little bit discombobulated, bear with me. It's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be fun. So the first little prompt that we've got is reading stats and challenge progress. So the challenge that we're talking about today is the 25 in 2025, which we talked about a few weeks ago in a progress report vlog, but I've made more progress since then, so we'll talk about that. But as for reading stats, let's get into the story graph. You know I love story graph. So for the 2025 reading goal, I set my goal at 100 books for the whole year. And where I'm at in that goal, 62 books. Yes, my friends, I am ahead by 17 books. And I am so proud of that. I'm so proud of that, and I feel really great because I don't feel like I have forced myself to read just to reach this goal. But I've actually been enjoying reading as I'm reading, and when I am in a slump, I let myself be in a slump. And I've still read 62 books, so I feel super good about that. It's the most books that I've ever read, up to this point in a year, so I'm really excited about that. My pages goal, I just kind of set a goal. I don't really care about the pages goal, but the pages goal that I set for myself was 30,000 pages this year, and I have read 16,789 pages, which means I'm 56% of the way to that goal, and I'm ahead by 3,310 pages. So we're moving right along. We're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good this year. As for my 25 in 2025, I have read 11 out of 25 books on that list. So I'm very pleased, giving myself a pat on the back for that, because typically when I set a TBR like that for myself, it's very arbitrary. It's just kind of there, and I don't really check very many off of a list like that. I'm a big mood reader, so TBRs are kind of they're just for fun. So the fact that I've even read any books off of that list is kind of huge for me. So 11 out of 25, that's pretty good. Could I have read more considering it's halfway through the year? I guess so, but hey, we're moving right along. We're doing good. We're making progress. I'm proud. Okay, let's look at some graphs, which is my favorite part about StoryGraph. Hence the name StoryGraph, I suppose. Let's just do top 5 moods, because there are a lot of moods listed here, and I'll show you the whole graph. I'll move over here. Top 5 moods as of right now: emotional, reflective, informative, dark, and tense. Sounds like I've been reading a lot of horror books. That checks out. I have read 44% nonfiction up to this point and 56% fiction. My top 5 genres at the moment are literary, LGBTQIA+, memoir, nature, and horror. 32% of my books have been read via audiobook, and 68% of my books have been read print. My most read authors, I have 5 authors that I have repeated so far this year. So Cy Montgomery, which I read a bunch of her books during my nature reading vlog back in, I think, April. Arsena Basterica, I've read 2 of her books this year. Carolyn Keene, obviously my Nancy Drew books. Robin Wall Kimmerer, I read 2 of her books this year, and Rivers Solomon, I've read 2 of their books as well. So far, let's see, what has been my top reading month. The most books that I've read in a month happened in February. I believe that was 17. The most pages I read happened in April at 4,565. So that's pretty cool. Okay, out of the 62 books that I've read this year and the 62 reviews that I've given, my average rating is 4.14 stars, which is pretty good, a pretty good average. Most of my books have been like a solid 4-star rating. That's the highest amount of reviews for a rating. Does that make sense? You get it. You see the graph. You get it. And I've only had 11 5-star books, which honestly is still pretty good. Like I'm not mad about having 11 5-star books. I have had a lot of flops recently, so that's where you're seeing all of the like 2-star, the 3-star, 3.25, all of those. So hopefully the latter half of this year is filled with more above average reads. Fingers crossed. And now, since I'm a member of Storygraph, I'm a paying member, I get to do little custom stats, and that's kind of my favorite part of the app. So I'll show you a few of those as well. 55% of my books this year have come from the library. 26% of the books that I've read have come from these shelves, my owned TBR. And 19% of the books that I've read have been bought this year and read this year. So I'm doing really stinking good on that. Really happy with my library usage this year. It's been great. I freaking love the library. Support your local library. Author pronouns, 73% have been she, her pronouns, 23% he, him, and 5% they, them. Author race and ethnicity, 53% of my authors have been white, 13% have been Black, 6% Indigenous, 6% Latinx, 5% Asian American Pacific Islander, and then I have a bunch of smaller percentages after that. I believe most of them have been Chinese, Nigerian, Korean, and Italian. What is this red one? Japanese as well. But it doesn't show me all of the labels because they're such small percentages in the overall span of the year so far. So if you're more interested in that, you should be watching my monthly reading vlogs because I get deeper into the race and ethnicity of my authors there. So those are all of my reading stats as of now. Let's get into the rest of the questions. So the first question after all the reading stats have been done is best book of 2025 so far. And as I was looking through all of my 5-star ratings for this year, there was just one clear standout to me. Like this one just stuck with me like all the way up until now. I read it in February and I think it changed my life forever. Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. I adore this book and I want to read everything that Charlotte writes forever and always. Like, look at all the tabs that I've gotten here. This book, I'm a bird watcher, okay? So any book that's gonna have birds as a central theme in the story, that's gonna tug on the heartstrings, okay? But this was truly incredible. I loved being in the mind of this main character. I really appreciated the way that the story was told because even though it was like a little bit non-chronological, it was still very easy for me to follow. Y'all know that I have trouble with like time jumps and things, keeping everything like straight in my mind, but this one, it told it really simply. The writing was very poetic at times and very profound. Like I just feel like I want to reread this book just to like be in this world again. It was just told so well and described so well. I could feel the desperation from our character. I could feel the like deep sadness that she carried. And at the end of the book, I most definitely cried. And it wasn't like I cried during the book. That's what's different about this book to me is literally, I kid you not, I read the last sentence, closed the book, I sat there with the book closed in my lap, and then I just started sobbing. Like it all just like hit me like a wave, and I felt all of the grief and all of the love and all of the longing and just like yearning that this character had been feeling the entire the entire story. And again, because it was tied into birds, it made it like that much more powerful for me and impactful, and I just wept. I cannot recommend this book enough, truly. I love it. I will sing its praises until the day I die, and I can't wait to read more from this author. Next question is best sequel, and I don't read a lot of series, so this one is kind of a winner just by default, but it's also one of my 5-star books from this year, so I feel like it would have won anyway, even if I had read another sequel from another series. But it's going to be A Prayer for the Crown Shy, and this is the second book in the duology, the Monk and the Robot duology by Becky Chambers. And this is one of those books where it's like futuristic and like sci-fi a little bit, but in a cozy way. And it's not too fantastical for it to feel like it could never happen. And so I feel like I could connect to it in a really deep way. And it's very much anti-capitalism. And that is something that I stand firm on as well. So it just really spoke to me. It's very profound. It's extremely optimistic, and in a world and in a country where our current events are very chaotic and pessimistic and seemingly hopeless, you have books like this to carry you through. And I love it. I love this series so much. I recommend it to everyone, especially people who are like just getting back into reading or they're in a reading slump, because these books are so short. You can finish them in a day and that would be like extremely doable, or you could read them over like a week and take it really, really slow and really absorb all of the truths and the lessons that the story is trying to teach. And it's just good. It's just good. It's good for anyone. Yeah, you should read it if you haven't. Read the whole series. I love it so much. Next, we've got new releases I want to read, and usually I don't keep track of new releases quite as much because I really just started reading again a couple years ago, and so I kind of feel like I am playing catch up still. I'm reading a lot of books that came out like pre-2020, and so new releases don't always just like grab my attention, but when they do, they do. So one of them that I already own and that I'm really, really excited to read, Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. I'm a big horror reader just in general, but whenever horror ties in with current events, I just feel like it is so much more impactful. And this could either ruin my life or change it for the better, and I don't know which one is going to happen, but I'm really excited to read it regardless. The other three that I have listed, I'm going to have to pull up on Storygraph to look at them because I need to make sure that I have authors correct. Okay, two of them are memoirs that I want to read. One of them is Dylan Mulvaney's memoir, Paper Doll, Notes from a Late Bloomer. I have been following Dylan Mulvaney on social media since pretty much the dawn of her like rise to fame. I just really admire her, and her story inspires me so much, and she has taught me so much about trans rights and transgender experience just like in general. And so I think reading her memoir would just be really amazing, and I would love to read that. So that's one of them. The other memoir on this prompt is Marcia, The Joy and Defiance of Marcia P. Johnson by Tourmaline. This is an extremely new release, and it's again about the transgender experience, something that I'm trying to learn more about and understand more, and just take more time to just understand the history of transgender activism and rights and just everything, because that's something that I simply have not been taught as someone who grew up in conservative Christianity, as well as being homeschooled. in a southern state. Like, you're just not going to learn about people like this. And so I really, really, really want to take the time to learn about these people's stories and understand their life experience and learn from them. So those are two memoirs that I'm really, really interested in reading. And the last new release that I wanted to talk about is They Bloom at Night by Trong Tran Tran, I think is how you say their name. I'm not positive, but it is, it's queer horror, takes place in Louisiana. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I don't really know that much about the plot, but everyone that I've seen read it has just raved about it. So I want to read that as well. Also, the cover is just really cool. Really catches the eye. So that's definitely on my list. And then our next question is most anticipated upcoming releases. And again, I don't really keep track of upcoming releases very often, but these are two books that I have had on my radar for a while, and I'm very excited for them to come out. The first one comes out July 15th, and that is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. And I read this author's first book last year, I think it was last year, and really, really loved it. Just very cozy, very like magical realism vibes in a way that I actually like, because it's hard for me to like magical realism. Like, that's just not a genre that I typically gravitate towards, but this author does it really well, and so I am like super down to read this book and really hoping that I like it a lot. Also, the cover is just so cute. Like, how could you not want to read that? And then the other one comes out October 21st, and that is Sorry I Keep Crying During Sex by Jesse James Rose, another memoir from a transgender social media influencer that I follow and absolutely adore. They, again, teach me so much about loving people and treating people with kindness, and I just want to learn more. I just want to learn more from them and learn more about their life. So that one's definitely on my list. And now we're at biggest disappointment. And this one truly is a huge disappointment for me because it's written by one of my favorite authors. And if you've been watching my videos for a while, you probably already know what I'm going to say. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I wanted to love this book. I wanted to love it. I just simply didn't love it. Grady Hendrix is one of my favorite horror authors of all time, and the 1970s, when this book is set, is one of my favorite decades to learn about of all time. And so I was like, okay, my two favorite things merging together, this is gonna be great. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. It felt more like historical fiction than a horror book, and I'm not really a historical fiction girly. I wish I was, but I'm just not. I wanted this to scare the pants off of me, and it didn't. So I was disappointed in it for sure. And it also just felt too long. Like, it felt slow paced and too long. So it just wasn't it for me. I had high expectations for it, and I felt shattered after I read this, to put it simply. So yeah, I was sad about this one, but I still have hope for other Grady Hendrix novels in the future. I'm still so sad that I didn't love it. Like, even just looking at this makes me sad. Then we've got Biggest Surprise, and this one's gonna be Monstrilio, which I rated 4.75, and I listened to on audio. I don't know what it was about the synopsis that made me feel like I wasn't gonna enjoy it, but I put off reading it for so long because I was like, this doesn't sound like it's for me. I just don't think that I'm gonna love it. I think because of like the monster element, it just seemed like it was going to be too fantastical for me. But that just wasn't the case. Like, I was so deeply invested, especially in the first POV and the last POV. Those sections of the book were so deeply moving to me. The middle section of the book kind of lost me a little bit. I felt like I was not paying attention quite as much, which is why I didn't get a 5-star rating. But I liked this book so much more than I expected to. I felt so connected to the characters. I wanted to know what happened to all of them. I wanted all of them to live a happy life and find a way to cope with all of the grief and the trauma that they had experienced. And it just made me feel a lot of emotions, and that's not something that I expect from a book like that. And so it just really impressed me. I would say that I would compare it to like gothic horror novels, because it wasn't like scary. I think it was more like it had just a lot of tension. And like I said, the fantastical monster elements kind of move it more into the horror genre, but it wasn't fast-paced or like thrilling by any means, which is normally what I like in a horror book. But this one, it just like sat with me for a long time, and that can be hard for a horror book to do. So I just really appreciate it a lot, and there was a lot of good like diversity as far as representation goes. It was just really good, and I didn't expect to like it. So I would say that that is probably the biggest surprise of the year so far. New favorite author, we've already talked about her, Charlotte McConaughey. I mean, come on. How could she not? I've only read one book by her, but I just know that she's going to be a new favorite. Okay, the next question is new fictional crush. And the thing about me and fictional crushes is I don't read a lot of romance, or even like romance adjacent like fiction. So I don't really have a lot of data to give you on this, but I will say I did read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez a few months ago, and I did really like Daniel. I wouldn't say that he's like a new fictional crush, but I like him. And then new favorite character, that one's also hard because I don't feel like I carry characters with me after I close a book. But I did love Piranesi from the book Piranesi. I thought that their curiosity was so sweet and just wholesome. I just found the character to be so wholesome, and I just loved them. I feel like there's nothing else really for me to say about that. I just, being in Piranesi's mind and seeing things from their point of view really made me appreciate my surroundings more and just the world around me. And it was just really interesting to see things through their eyes. So I just really liked Piranesi, okay? That's all I have to say. Okay, and a book that made me cry, we've already talked about it. It was Migrations. In fact, I think that Migrations is the only book that has made me cry so far this year. I think some other books have gotten close, but nothing to the extent of Migrations. So that's my answer. It's Migrations. Migrations all the way. And then a book that made me happy. There are quite a few, but I think one that's kind of a standout in a very unique way is Welcome to the Hyeonam-dong Bookshop. And the reason that I picked this book, and I haven't talked about this book on my channel yet, but I will probably talk about it in depth later in another wrap up. It was very interesting because I feel like I couldn't tell you exactly what happened in the book. Like, following the plot just didn't seem important to the book, but the feeling of the book felt so comforting and cozy and homey, and it really just felt like I was surrounded by close friends and family as I was listening to the book. I don't know how to describe this to you. I really, really don't. And maybe it's because the two main like hobbies slash careers that were being talked about in depth in this book were coffee, like roasting and being a barista, and reading and owning a bookshop. Those are two things that I'm extremely passionate about and extremely like knowledgeable about. And so having those things being talked about constantly and in so much depth, it just felt like I was surrounded by a group of like-minded people, and it just made me feel so comforted and like I said, just cozy and at home and almost nostalgic in a way. But I don't really know what it was making me nostalgic for. I just felt so connected to the characters, but it didn't feel like they were characters. It felt like they were people. And something about reading a book like that just really warms my heart. And it's just such a unique experience to connect with the book on that level. And it almost makes me like a little bit emotional. And again, I couldn't even tell you the plot of the book other than the main character starts a bookshop with a little coffee corner in it, and you kind of follow that journey. But it's just so much more than that at the same time. I don't know. You just have to read it. I highly recommend the audiobook. The narration is wonderful, and it's just such a joy to listen to. So yeah, that book definitely made me so happy and still makes me happy to think about to this day. Okay, must read by by the end of 2025. Obviously, any of the books on my 25 and 2025 list, those are all gonna be books that I would like to read by the end of this year. But I would like to get more into nonfiction again. So kind of along the same lines of like those new releases that I talked about, a lot of memoirs. I want to get back into like the political nonfiction and stuff like that. I don't really have titles for you right now because there are so many books that I want to read by the end of 25 that I'm not being very strict about what I have to read because, again, I'm such a mood reader. I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever I read in this year, as long as I make it to my reading goal, that's fine. But I do want to make it a goal to read more nonfiction during the latter half of this year, so I'll just leave you with that. Okay, and the last question, I'm really excited about this one because I feel like I found so many new BookTube community members that I've just really enjoyed watching. The last question is favorite BookTube community members. I didn't say that, but I'm gonna be going through my subscriptions list to find a few of them. Some like standard ones that I always love: Ivana in the City, Lit with Kat, Sid Bookworm, Heather McClary, Taylor Tippett. Those are kind of my basics. I watch everything they put out. Also, Books and Lala is a huge one for me. I love all of their stuff. But new ones that I've been into are Kels Sweetie, who does a lot of diversity focused TBRs, which I absolutely love. And it's something that inspires me every time I watch one of her videos. And she does a lot of horror book content as well, so that's something that I always gravitate towards. Novels with Alex is an excellent one also. Not only does she do book content, but she also does lifestyle content, and so it's a good variety of like reading vlogs, but also favorites videos, and it kind of gives the same vibes as like my comfort YouTube from like 5 years ago in the best way. And so I really enjoy watching her videos whenever she posts. It's very cozy, very chill, exactly what I need whenever I'm winding down at the end of the day. So I highly recommend her. She's lovely. Stephanie Bookish is a great one too. She reads a lot of fantasy, romance. She did some Hunger Games focused vlogs recently. She's been doing a series called Read It Down, where she focuses on her physical TBR and is reading all the things that she's been putting off. And she just has good vibes. Most of the time, whenever I have like a favorite BookTube creator, it's because they have good vibes. It almost has nothing to do with the type of content that they're posting. It's all just based on vibes. If you have good vibes, I'm probably gonna like you. So that's kind of my barrier of entry. Do you have good vibes? Okay, you're it. Okay, I'm scrolling, and I don't think that I have forgotten anyone, but if I did, then I will just leave them in the description along with everyone else, because there are so many wonderful booktubers out there that deserve so much more recognition, and I just love this community so much. Like, I cannot even explain to you how lovely and welcoming the booktube community is. And I'm just so lucky to be a part of it. So thanks for letting me be here and talk about books and be silly and cozy, and yeah, it's just a good time, and I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you subscribing and chit-chatting with me in the comments and liking all my videos. It's just the best. You guys are the best. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was fun to watch, fun to listen to. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned, whether I have read them or not, please let me know in the comments. I want to know what you think about the books. And if you have any recommendations for me based on the books that I have mentioned, feel free to drop those in the comments as well. I'm always looking to add to my ever-growing TBR. And yeah, I will see you next Thursday for another video. Bye.